Hey everyone, welcome back.
Yeah.
So today we're going to be diving into a book, uh, The E-Myth Revisited.
Okay.
And I know we talk about a lot of business books on this show, but this one's kind of a classic, I think.
Yeah, for sure.
And it's one that I think is really relevant, whether you're just thinking about starting a business or you've been in business for a while.
Uh-huh.
Um, so I'm excited to kind of dig into this one with you.
Yeah, me too.
So like one of the first things that Gerber talks about in the book is this idea of the fatal assumption.
Okay.
And that is that a lot of times people who start businesses start them because they're good at something.
Yeah.
They have a skill, they have a talent, they have a passion.
Right.
But they assume that just because they're good at that thing, that they're going to be good at running a business.
Right. And that's enough, right? Like,
Yeah.
if you're a fantastic baker, that suddenly you're going to be a fantastic business owner.
Right. And he uses this example in the book of Sarah the pie baker,
Mm-hmm.
who is like amazing at making pies.
Yeah.
Like everyone loves her pies.
Right.
She decides to open a pie shop and she just gets completely overwhelmed
Yeah.
by all of the things that go into actually running a business.
Yeah.
It have nothing to do with baking pies.
Right. All the other hats that you have to wear when you're
Yeah.
running a business. Yeah.
So have you ever like experienced that in your own work, or like do you relate to that at all?
Oh, absolutely. I think everyone who has started their own business has been through that initial phase of being like, wait a minute.
Right.
Like, I'm spending all my time doing these other things
Right.
that aren't the thing I'm actually passionate about or good
Yeah.
at. Yeah.
So like maybe you're not a pie baker, but think about like what is that thing in your business that you are really good at,
Mm-hmm.
but maybe isn't actually the best use of your time.
Right. Or that, that you're so busy doing
Yeah.
that you're not actually able to do all of the other things
Right.
that need to be done in order to grow your business.
Yeah. So it's kind of about, I guess, like recognizing those patterns in yourself
Uh-huh.
and figuring out how to get out of them.
Yeah, and I think that's the core of what the E-Myth is all about,
Right.
is identifying those traps that entrepreneurs fall into, and figuring out how to escape them, basically.
Yeah.
And one of the first sort of traps that he highlights is this tension
Yeah.
between what he calls the three personalities of every business owner.
Oh, I like this.
Yeah, it's a good one.
So tell me about this.
So the three personalities that he identifies
Right.
are the entrepreneur, the manager, and the technician.
Okay.
So he's saying that within every business owner, these three sort of
Mm.
archetypes exist.
Okay. So like, which one am I?
Well, so let's break down
Okay.
the three so you can figure out which one
Okay.
you most identify with, or maybe which one is most dominant in you at this moment.
Okay. Okay.
So you've got the entrepreneur,
Mm-hmm.
and he says the entrepreneur is, kind of the visionary. Okay.
They're the dreamers. They're always looking ahead.
Okay.
They're the ones who are excited by new ideas. They get bored easily.
Oh, yeah.
They're just always looking for the next big thing.
Oh, okay.
Then you've got the manager,
Mm-hmm.
who is all about order and systems.
Okay.
They're the ones who love a good spreadsheet.
Okay.
They want to make sure everything is running smoothly.
Mm-hmm.
And then you've got the technician.
Okay.
And the technician is the doer, the one who likes to get their hands dirty.
Mm-hmm.
They're the ones who are actually creating the product or providing the service.
Oh, okay. So I feel like a lot of entrepreneurs probably start out as the technician.
Absolutely. I think that's the most common starting point.
Yeah.
You start a business based on something you're good at,
Mm-hmm.
so you're naturally in that technician role.
Right.
But the problem is that as your business grows, you can't stay in that technician role.
Okay.
You have to start developing those other personalities,
Okay.
the entrepreneur and the manager.
In order to really succeed.
Okay, so these are like all living inside of us.
Yeah, it's like this internal team that you have to manage.
Okay, got it.
And he says that, the tension between these personalities
Mhm.
is often what causes a lot of the conflict and struggle
Okay,
that entrepreneurs experience.
got it.
So, for example, the entrepreneur might have all these grand visions
Mhm.
for the future of the business,
Yeah,
but the technician is so bogged down
right.
in the day-to-day work
Yeah,
that they're not able to actually
No.
execute on those visions.
got it. Yeah.
And then the manager might be trying to create systems
Right.
and processes to make everything run smoothly,
Yeah,
but the entrepreneur is resistant to that because they see it as stifling their creativity.
right. So it's like a constant tug of war.
Yeah, exactly. It's like this constant internal battle.
Yeah.
And he says that this struggle is what plays out
Right.
in the three phases that every business goes through.
Oh, okay. Interesting. Yeah. So what are these three phases?
So the three phases are infancy, adolescence, and maturity.
Okay.
And he says that, every business goes through these phases.
Hmm.
And depending on which personality is dominant
Okay.
at that time,
Yeah.
that will determine how successfully they navigate that phase.
Okay, so like what's infancy?
So infancy is that initial stage
Okay.
when you first start the business.
Yeah.
And it's often characterized by a lot of excitement and energy. It's like being let out of school for the summer.
Oh, okay.
You're working in your business. You're your own boss.
Yeah.
Everything is new and shiny.
Right.
But he says that this phase can quickly turn into what he calls the worst job in the world.
Oh, no.
Because you become the bottleneck.
Yeah.
You're doing everything yourself. You're working long hours. And it's just not sustainable.
Okay, so you're saying like that initial excitement wears off?
Yeah, and the reality of running a business sets in, and then you move into adolescence.
Okay.
And adolescence is where things start to get a little messy.
Okay.
You start hiring people, but often you're hiring based on your needs as the technician, not on the needs of the business as a whole.
Right.
So you end up with a team of people who are all kind of doing their own thing.
Right.
And there's no real system or structure in place.
Just like chaos.
It can be very chaotic.
Okay.
And then finally you have maturity.
Okay.
And maturity is the ideal stage.
Got it.
Where your business is running smoothly, like a well-oiled machine.
Okay.
You have a strong team in place. You have systems and processes that are working. And you're not constantly putting out fires.
So this is the dream, right?
This is the dream, yeah.
Like to have that business that's just kind of running itself?
Yeah, to be able to step back and work on your business instead of in your business.
Okay.
But he says that very few businesses actually reach that stage of maturity.
Oh, wow.
Because they don't make that shift.
Okay, what shift?
From thinking like the technician to thinking like the entrepreneur.
Oh, interesting. So you're saying like you have to kind of evolve as a person.
You do. You have to evolve your mindset.
Okay.
And he says that the technician sees their skill as the business. So for Sarah, the pie baker, her skill is baking pies.
Right.
So she sees her business as a pie baking business.
Right.
But he says that the entrepreneur sees the business as the product.
Oh, interesting.
So instead of seeing her business as a pie baking business, she needs to see it as a pie business.
Okay.
And that's a very subtle but important distinction.
Yeah, I can see that.
Because it's about shifting your focus from the technical work to the business itself.
Got it. So like the business is the thing that you're creating.
The business is the product. And that's what you need to be focused on building and growing.
Okay. That's interesting.
He uses this great example of Tom Watson Sr.,
okay,
who was the founder of IBM. And he says that, Watson wasn't just selling computers. He was building a company. And he saw IBM as the product, not the computers themselves.
So he was thinking bigger.
He was thinking bigger, yeah.
Got it. Okay.
And that's what allowed him to create such a successful and enduring company.
Right. So it's about having that vision.
It is, yeah.
For the business as a whole.
Yeah.
Okay, so how do you actually make that shift?
That's the million-dollar question, right?
Yeah.
It's not easy.
Right.
But he offers some really valuable insights.
Okay.
And one of the most interesting things he talks about is this idea of the franchise prototype.
Okay, so tell me about this.
So he says that we should think of our businesses as if we were creating a franchise.
Okay.
And at first, that might seem kind of counterintuitive.
Yeah, I was just going to say like McDonald's.
Yeah, exactly, like McDonald's.
Right.
But he's not saying that we should all go out and create fast food chains.
Okay.
What he's saying is that we should look at the principles that make franchises successful.
Okay.
And one of the key principles is systematization.
Okay.
So McDonald's is successful because they have a system for everything, from how they make their burgers to how they train their employees to how they design their restaurants.
Right.
And that system is what allows them to deliver a consistent experience to customers no matter where they are in the world.
Yeah. You know what you're getting when you walk into a McDonald's.
Exactly.
Right.
And he says that we can apply those same principles to any business.
So like even if I'm a solopreneur.
Even if you're a solopreneur,
Okay.
you can still create a system for how you do things.
Right.
And that system is what will allow you to scale your business and create that freedom and leverage
Got it.
that we're all looking for.
So like if we go back to the pie example,
Yeah.
it's not about like having a million pie shops.
Right.
It's about having a system for that one pie shop.
It's about creating a model that could be replicated
Okay.
if you wanted to open more pie shops.
Okay.
Or even if you just want to create a business that can run without you having to be there all the time.
Got it. Okay, that's interesting.
So he wants you to imagine your business as if you were creating a model for 5,000 more just like it.
Okay.
And that's what he calls the franchise prototype.
Right. So like what are the elements of that?
Well, that's what we're going to get into
Okay.
as we dive deeper into the book.
All right, so we're going to take a quick break.
Yeah.
And when we come back, we're going to be talking more about how to actually create that franchise prototype.
Yeah, and how to start thinking about your business in a more systematic way.
All right, we'll be right back.
Sounds good. You know, when I was reading this section about the franchise prototype, it really made me think about how important the customer experience is to the success of any business.
Yeah.
And I think that's something that a lot of entrepreneurs overlook.
Okay, so like what do you mean by that?
Well, I think a lot of times we get so focused on the technical aspects of our business, you know, like the product or the service that we're offering, that we forget about the overall experience that our customers are having.
Okay.
And Gerber argues that the customer experience is actually the product.
Oh, interesting.
He says that people are buying a feeling.
Okay.
They're buying an emotion. And that's what we need to be focused on creating.
So it's not just about like the pie that I'm buying.
Right.
It's about like the whole experience of going to the pie shop.
Exactly. It's about the ambiance, the customer service, the feeling that you get when you walk in the door. And he uses this great analogy of a theatrical production.
Okay.
He says that, you know, when you go to see a play, you're not just paying for the actors to stand on stage and recite lines.
Right.
You're paying for the whole experience.
Right. The lighting, the music, the costume.
Exactly. All of those elements work together to create a cohesive and engaging experience.
Okay.
And he says that our businesses should be the same way.
So we're like the director.
We are the directors, yeah.
Okay.
And we need to be paying attention to all of the details that go into creating that customer experience.
Got it.
And he talks about these 3 types of systems that are essential for any business.
Okay.
Hard systems, soft systems, and information systems.
All right, let's break those down a little bit. Like, what are hard systems?
So hard systems are the tangible elements of your business.
Okay.
So things like your equipment, your tools, your furniture, your space.
Okay.
For Sarah the pie baker, her hard systems would be her ovens, her mixers, her refrigerators, her display cases.
Got it.
All of the things that she needs to actually make and sell her pies.
Okay.
Then you have soft systems. And soft systems are the intangible elements.
Okay.
So things like your processes, your procedures, your policies, your culture.
So like how I greet a customer when they walk in the door?
Exactly.
Okay.
How you handle customer complaints, how you train your employees.
Okay.
All of those things are part of your soft systems.
Got it.
And then finally, you have information systems.
Okay.
And information systems are the systems that you use to track and manage information.
Okay.
So things like your accounting system, your CRM, your inventory management system, all of those systems that help you to make better decisions.
Okay.
And he says that all 3 of these systems are essential for creating a successful business because they all work together to create that cohesive customer experience.
Okay, so give me like an example of how these systems might work together.
Okay, so let's say that Sarah, the pie baker, has a really great hard system in place.
Okay.
She's got top-of-the-line ovens. She's got beautiful display cases.
Yeah.
Everything is clean and organized, but her soft systems are lacking.
Okay.
So her employees are not properly trained.
Right.
They're not friendly or helpful.
Okay.
And they don't know how to answer customer questions.
Yeah.
So even though her pies are amazing, the customer experience is going to be negative.
Right.
And people are not going to want to come back.
Because it doesn't matter how good the pie is.
Exactly.
If the service is terrible.
If the service is terrible, you're not going to want to go back.
Yeah. Okay, that makes sense.
So it's really important to have all three of these systems working together in harmony.
Got it.
In order to create that positive customer experience.
Okay, so let's say I'm like Sarah the pie baker.
Yeah.
And I'm like, okay, I need to create these systems in my business. Where do I even start?
Well, Gerber suggests that you start by thinking about your ideal customer experience.
Okay.
So close your eyes and imagine that you are your ideal customer. What does it look like when they walk into your store? How are they greeted?
Yeah.
What kind of music is playing? What's the lighting like?
Okay.
What kind of feeling do they get?
Got it.
And then start thinking about the systems that you need to put in place to create that experience.
Got it.
So, for example, if you want your customers to feel welcomed and appreciated, you might create a system where every customer is greeted by name. Or you might offer them a free sample of your product.
Right.
Or you might send them a handwritten thank you note after their purchase.
Okay.
All of those little touches can make a big difference in creating a positive customer experience.
Okay, so it's about like the details.
It is, yeah. It's about the details.
Right, that makes sense.
And he also talks about the importance of innovation.
Okay.
He says that we should always be looking for ways to improve our systems, and that innovation doesn't have to be some big dramatic thing.
Right.
It can be small, incremental changes that make a big difference over time.
So it's about like constantly iterating?
Exactly. It's about constantly iterating and improving.
Okay.
He gives this great example of a retail store that changed the greeting from, "May I help you?" to "Have you been in here before?"
Okay.
And that simple change made a huge difference in their customer satisfaction.
Why is that?
Well, because it created a more welcoming and personalized experience.
Oh, okay.
Instead of feeling like they were being sold to, customers felt like they were being invited in.
Okay.
And that made them more likely to browse and make a purchase.
So it's like psychology.
It is. It's all about psychology. And he talks about the importance of measuring your results.
Okay.
He says that you can't ask too many questions about the numbers.
Right.
Because the numbers will tell you what's working and what's not.
Yeah.
So he encourages you to track everything. Your sales, your customer feedback, your employee productivity.
Okay.
Everything that you can measure.
Got it.
And then use that data to make better decisions.
Okay, so this is all starting to sound a little bit overwhelming.
I know it can be a lot to take in.
Yeah.
But remember that you don't have to do everything all at once.
Right.
You can start small. Just pick one area of your business that you want to improve.
Yeah.
And start thinking about the systems that you can put in place.
Got it.
To make that happen.
Okay.
And then once you've got that system in place,
yeah,
you can move on to the next area.
Got it. So it's like a continuous improvement.
It is. It's all about continuous improvement.
Okay, that makes sense.
And remember that the goal is not to create a perfect business.
Okay.
The goal is to create a business that works, a business that allows you to live the life that you want.
Right.
So don't get too caught up in the details.
Yeah.
Just focus on making progress and keep moving forward.
Okay, so we've talked a lot about systems.
Yeah.
And the customer experience. But what about like the people who are actually running the business?
That's a great question.
Like the employees.
Yeah.
How do they fit into all of this?
Well, Gerber says that your employees are the most important asset.
Okay.
He says that you need to treat your employees like they are your customers.
Oh, interesting.
Because if your employees are happy and engaged, they're going to provide better customer service.
Right.
And they're going to be more likely to stay with your company.
Yeah.
Which will save you a lot of money in the long run.
Okay.
So he talks about the importance of creating a company culture where employees feel valued and appreciated.
Okay.
And he gives this great example of a hotel manager who was so inspired by his boss that he would go above and beyond to do a great job.
Okay.
And the reason why he was so motivated was because his boss treated him with respect.
Okay.
He gave him clear expectations. And he made him feel like he was part of a team.
So it's about like creating that positive work environment.
Exactly.
Okay.
And he talks about the importance of creating a game for your employees.
A game.
Yeah.
Okay.
He says that every job should be like a game.
Okay.
with clear goals and clear rewards.
So, like, how do you actually do that?
Well, you start by defining the rules of the game.
Okay.
So what are the expectations for your employees?
Mm-hmm.
What are the standards of performance?
Yeah.
What are the consequences for not meeting those standards?
Okay.
Then you define the goals of the game.
Mm-hmm.
So what are you trying to achieve as a company? What are the individual goals for each employee?
Yeah.
And then you define the rewards of the game.
Mm-hmm.
So what are the incentives for your employees to do a good job?
Okay, so it's like gamifying the work.
Exactly. It's about gamifying the work.
Okay, that's interesting.
And he says that when you create a game for your employees, they're more likely to be engaged and motivated.
Okay.
And they're more likely to enjoy their work.
Got it. So it's like a win-win.
It is. It's a win-win.
All right, so we've covered a lot of ground in this part.
Yeah, we have.
We've talked about the customer experience, the importance of systems, and how to create a positive work environment for your employees. But there's still one more piece of the puzzle that we need to talk about.
What's that?
And that is your primary aim.
Ah, yes.
So we're going to take a quick break.
Okay.
And when we come back,
we're
going to be talking about what your primary aim is and why it's so important.
It's the big one.
For building a successful business and a fulfilling life.
Absolutely.
All right, we'll be right back.
All right, so we're back, and we're talking about your primary aim.
Yeah, this is the big one.
Okay, so like, what is this primary aim thing?
So Gerber says that your primary aim is the reason why you're doing all of this.
Okay.
It's the ultimate goal that you're working towards.
So it's like bigger than just making money.
It's much bigger than just making money.
Okay.
It's about creating a life that you love.
Okay.
A life that has meaning and purpose.
So like, what are some examples of a primary aim?
Well, it's different for everyone.
Okay.
But some examples might be to make a difference in the world.
Okay.
To leave a legacy, to spend more time with your family, to travel the world, to pursue your passions.
So it's like your why.
It's your why, yeah.
Okay.
And he says that it's really important to get clear on your primary aim.
Okay.
Because it will guide all of your decisions.
Right. So if I don't know where I'm going,
yeah,
I'm not going to get there. And he has this really interesting exercise.
Okay.
That he suggests you do to help you get clear on your primary aim.
Okay, tell me about this.
So he says, imagine that it's your funeral, and you're listening to someone give you eulogy. What do you want them to say about you?
Wow, that's deep.
It is,
yeah.
Okay. But it's a really powerful way to think about what's truly important to you.
Okay, so it's like if I was looking back on my life, what would I want to have accomplished?
Exactly. Right. What kind of impact did I want to make?
Yeah.
What do I want people to remember me for?
Right. Okay.
And once you've got a good understanding of your primary aim, then you can start to create your strategic objective.
Okay, so what is a strategic objective?
So your strategic objective is basically a plan.
Okay.
For how you're going to achieve your primary aim.
So it's like the roadmap.
It's the roadmap, yeah.
Okay.
And he says that your strategic objective should include your money standards.
Okay.
So how much money do you need to make in order to achieve your primary aim?
Okay.
It should include your opportunity worth pursuing.
Okay.
So what is the business opportunity that you're going to focus on?
Yeah.
And it should include your customer definition.
Okay.
So who are your ideal customers?
Right.
What are their needs and wants? What are their demographics and psychographics?
Okay, so like really understanding who my customer is.
Yeah, really understanding your customer.
Okay.
And he has this really interesting point.
Okay.
About customer definition. He says, you should know more about your customers than they know about themselves.
Wow, that's a tall order.
It is, yeah.
Okay.
But it's really about understanding their underlying motivations.
Yeah.
What are their pain points?
Right.
What are they struggling with? What are their aspirations?
Okay.
And if you can understand those things, then you can create a product or service that really meets their needs.
Got it.
And that's how you create a successful business.
Okay, so like we've talked about all these different pieces,
Yeah.
right? The fatal assumption, the 3 personalities, the franchise prototype, your primary aim. What's like the one thing that ties all of this together?
I think the one thing that ties it all together is the idea of systems.
Okay.
Gerber is a big believer in systems.
Yeah.
He says that systems are what allow you to create a business that works. even when you're not there.
Right. So, like, that's how I get out of the technician trap.
Exactly.
Okay.
Systems are what allow you to leverage your time and create freedom in your business.
Got it.
And he talks about these 3 types of systems.
Right. Yeah. We talked about this earlier.
Yeah.
The hard systems, the soft systems, and the information system.
Exactly.
Okay.
And he says that all 3 of these systems are essential for creating a successful business. Because they all work together to create that cohesive customer experience that we talked about earlier.
Right.
So your hard systems are the tangible elements of your business.
Yeah, like the equipment and the...
Exactly.
Okay.
Your soft systems are the intangible elements.
Right, like the processes.
The process, the procedures, the culture. And your information systems are the systems that you use to track and manage information.
Got it.
So he gives this great example in the book.
Okay.
A company that was having a problem with blue ink stains all over their walls.
Blue ink stains.
Yeah.
Okay.
And it turned out that the problem was that the employees were using these cheap blue pens
Okay.
that were leaking.
Oh, okay.
So they tried all these different things to solve the problem. They tried yelling at the employees. They tried putting up signs.
Yeah.
They tried giving them different pens. But nothing seemed to work. And finally, they realized that the solution was actually very simple.
Okay, what was it?
They just needed to add a little lucite collar to the pens to prevent the ink from leaking.
Oh, so it was a system solution.
It was a system solution.
Okay.
And that's the power of systems.
Right.
They can solve problems that you might not even be aware of.
Okay.
And they can make your business run much more smoothly.
Got it.
So I think that's the key takeaway from the E-Myth Revisited.
Okay.
Is that your business is a system. And if you want your business to work, you need to create systems that work.
All right, so that's the E-Myth.
That's the E-Myth.
All right, well, thank you so much for joining me on this deep dive.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
It's been a really insightful conversation.
Absolutely.
And I hope that our listeners have gotten a lot out of it.
Me too.
And I think that the E-Myth Revisited is a book that I would recommend to any entrepreneur.
Whether you're just starting out or you've been in business for a while. Right. It's a really valuable read.
All right, well, that's it for this episode.
Okay.
Thanks for listening.
Thanks, everyone.